It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio, your legacy home of the Cougars. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. It's Monday, December 1st here on the program, and you would have thought that we'd be talking about the most wins in a regular season in 24 years, getting ready for the Big 12 football championship game against Texas Tech, the rematch, wall-to-wall coverage, right? Oh, no. College football can change in a hurry. Instead, we're talking about the coaching carousel, and that's our top story of the day.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
Kalani Sitake and Penn State. The Nittany Lions are reportedly eyeing Kalani as their top target. That according to On3's Brett McMurphy and Pete Nakos. Wild times in this coaching carousel. Look, there was some smoke building around the Thanksgiving holiday, Black Friday, but things started to accelerate when you see flights getting scheduled between Provo and State College on Sunday. And I'll be honest, those two places don't have many direct flights, folks. Provo and State College. Kalani continues to be in talks with Penn State. And on Monday, to make things even more awkward, Kalani Sitake was scheduled to be on the Big 12 Football Conference Championship Game press conference, and he was there. And it was interesting, too, on the press conference, there was a long pause after the moderator, Matt Inzor, the communications director for the Big 12, was tossing it to Kalani Sitake for an opening statement. I'm thinking, is Kalani gone? he just had to unmute himself. It was a Zoom teleconference call, press conference. And Kalani Sitake's first question out of the chute, kind of a general question. And this was how that exchange sounded.
Kalani, I'll get this out of the way early. You seem to deal with this every single year. Your name comes up with coaching speculation. What do you tell your team about the rumors they inevitably hear on social media? Do you address it at all? Or is it something that you just, you're solely focused on the game that you don't even want them to pay attention to it at all?
Well, I have to address it because it's the world is small now and people can see stuff on social media and everything. And you guys do a great job at covering things. And so, yeah, I'll address it. But I also, they're used to me saying, hey, this is a good sign, that things are going well for us. But I will say that this isn't about me. What I've asked our team to do is to be focused on what we're trying to accomplish. There are marks of finishers, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to finish the season the right way and get after it. And it's required of us to be at our best to play against Texas Tech. So as we go through this week and go through the prep, I also want them to live through all the moments and have the great experience and not waste a moment thinking about anything else. So I've asked our team to be focused on what we can control, and that's right now we can control what we're doing as a team and not worry about all the distraction. This is a great distraction to have, let's be honest. But right now we need to be focused on making sure that we're giving our best shot in this game against Texas Tech.
Interesting commentary from Kalani Sitake. Again, that was on Monday in the Big 12 Football Championship Game press conference, which, by the way, you could tell, I think the moderator and the Big 12 people are like, didn't expect these sort of questions. Keep in mind, Texas Tech, so Joey McGuire was on the call. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark was on the call. Then a moderator in Kalani Sitake. Joey McGuire had his own press conference with the local Lubbock media in person today. BYU did not. They just used their typical Kalani Monday presser for this. So this was our one crack to talk to Kalani this week. And what was interesting, too, on Saturday, in his radio postgame with Greg Wrubell, Greg brought up that there was the email sent out during what would be the typical time for postgame on the radio broadcast that you can hear on KSL NewsRadio. We all got it in the media. Big 12 football championship game press conference Monday. These individuals, and Kalani kind of seemed a little like, oh, was he planning to be in State College? Anyway, I asked Kalani point blank. I just said, well, here's the exchange I had with Kalani. This question's for Kalani. Kalani Football Scoop reported that you and Penn State are discussing their head coaching vacancy. What's your comment on that?
I think I already commented on it before. I'm all about the Big 12 championship and keeping our team focused on that. So we're going to avoid all the distractions.
I respect that comment from Kalani. Look, you don't want to have to ask those questions. You just don't. You want to talk about BYU and Texas Tech. You want to talk about all of that. But that's the story right now is BYU and Penn State and Kalani Sitake. And Kalani was also asked his relationship about Brian Santiago and things like that. Let me just say this, though. Kalani Sitake, he is the best head coach for BYU football. There is not a doubt in my mind. Kalani Sitake is the best. He is the perfect head coach for the BYU football program in the revenue sharing era, the NIL era, the transfer portal era. Kalani Sitake is the best man for this job. And people can say that BYU did Kalani a solid and were patient with him. You could say that. Understand, though, Kalani Sitake has overcome a lot in his BYU coaching career. And sometimes I think been undersold and underappreciated at times. Kalani is, no one would ever say he's the highest paid coach in college football, not even the Big 12. And there's some high paid coaches in the Big 12. Yet Kalani now has emerged as the winningest head coach in the Big 12 since the 16-team iteration began in 2024. In this 16-team era, Kalani Sitake is the winningest head coach in this era of the Big 12. He's emerged as that. And I don't think it's slowing down. And you're doing that, too, with solid resources. Not elite, solid. BYU's come a long way since the day when Kalani first took over this program in 2016. So the notion that BYU doesn't have any money and they just undersell people all the time, I don't completely subscribe to that. They're improving. 2021, there was a bump. Last year, there was a bump. The thing is, though, is that, and I brought this up in Lubbock back on November 8th, BYU knows what they're staring down in the Big 12 going forward. And this Saturday even. Texas Tech is going to be a beast. Not only this year, we know that, but in the years to come. And not only is BYU trying to win Big 12 titles on a consistent basis and not let this be just 1 year flash in the pan, you're going to have to contend with Texas Tech on an annual basis, who is pumping in the money left and right, getting elite recruiting classes, getting studs in the transfer portal, paying at a premium. BYU's doing a nice job with select recruits. Getting a guy like Ryder Lyons is huge. You need to have an NIL infrastructure to get a guy like him. But there still could be more. And when you have now the winningest coaching staff in the Big 12, they deserve more. And Kalani is the perfect man for the job, because what he talks about being a BYU football fan, the passion of BYU football lives within Kalani Sitake. That's not manufactured. That's not fake. Kalani Sitake loves BYU football. It's sincere. And I think that's why these sort of stories are jarring, because Kalani has so much passion for BYU that it's hard to wrap your mind around the idea of him leaving. But keep in mind, Penn State is an elite program. Great brand, great football program, great football history on the field, and an incredibly loyal fan base like BYU, but highly competitive and committed to resources and NIL and everything that it takes to win at the highest level. And when people point to geography as an issue on Kalani Sitake, that's an old school way of thinking in college football. That is such an old, out-of-date line of thought. Oh, he's not a fit. He's not a Northeast guy. Kalani Sitake, look, I've covered BYU football every step of the way since Kalani Sitake had his opening press conference the Monday after BYU lost to Utah in the Vegas Bowl in 2015. I've covered every step of Kalani Sitake's tenure at BYU, every step of it. On the road, at home, everything. I've covered darn near everything that Kalani Sitake has said. As BYU's head coach, I've been there with a microphone and been there to ask questions. Kalani is an elite builder of culture, and it doesn't matter what your social, economic backgrounds, he can connect with people at such a deep level, and he's an excellent football coach too. And he's incredibly calculated. He doesn't just do things on a whim at all. He's very smart. He's very detailed. Kalani knows what he's doing. Every time that he's faced adversity, his back's been against the wall at BYU, he'd pull a lever, make a change, and it's always worked out. I was looking at well, you know what? Let's hold that thought. Let's get to a break. We'll get to more of this conversation with Kalani and Penn State next here on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSL Sports. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. So, Kalani Sitake in Penn State. Reports are out there that Kalani is a top target for the Penn State coaching search, which has been going on since October. And Penn State fans are going to feel maybe a little bit let down if it does end up being Kalani Sitake. I would tell them Kalani Sitake would be an outstanding coach because, as I was teasing, he is excellent at building a program. And what I was saying is that Kalani, whenever he's pulled a lever and made coaching changes, it's always leveled up. And, I was looking back on Facebook a couple days ago. It was the 8th year anniversary of when BYU let go of Ty Detmer. There was a memory that was shared on my Facebook, one of those things. And it was the BYU football official post on Facebook notifying that Ty Detmer had been relieved of his duties as the offensive coordinator. And at that time, you look at the comments from that post, and so many people were down and out on Kalani. Oh, how could they do this? How could Kalani do this to a legend? They got blinded by the legend thing, even though it was the worst offense in the history of BYU football. And it had to be done. What I'm saying is Kalani does things, the road less traveled in his BYU tenure. When he took the head coaching job, he just wanted an opportunity to be the head coach. So he's willing to take on Ty Detmer. Tom Homo wanted Ty Detmer as the OC. He did that. It didn't work. He makes a change, goes to Jeff Grimes, gets Zach Wilson. Every time he's made changes, it's leveled up. And it took a long time because you navigated independence. You had a transition from independence to the Big 12. And then that moment in the transition, he talked with Oregon and Washington a little bit, Oregon especially. Comes back to BYU. Continues to level up. And then in 2023, it takes a nosedive in year one of the Big 12. And no one at that point thinks BYU can win a game anymore in the Big 12. Oh, the appeal of BYU football has gone out the window. They've gotten up to the big leagues. They can't win now. He proved everyone wrong. Facing a hot seat in 2024. He goes and wins 11 games. And now this year, without his starting quarterback that he was expected to have, they go to a true freshman. They're 11-1. They're better this year, and they're in the Big 12 championship. Kalani always has an answer, and it gets leveled up. So when he's asking potentially for more NIL, more rev share, more commitment for his staff and just the program at large, it's because look what's happening right now with middle-of-the-road resources committed by Big 12 standards to this thing. You're the winningest program in the 16-team iteration of the Big 12. What can this be when you're at a Texas Tech level of resource commitment to this football program? Because Kalani deserves it. He does. He is an excellent head coach, and you don't take that for granted. When you got a great head coach and you got someone who lives and breathes BYU football, you don't get that anymore in college football these days. Like, there's alums that played at the school and then they coach at the school, but you can't say that they were necessarily fans when they were a kid. You know, Kalani Sitake, when he talks about his passion for BYU football, you know, and he'll bring up a guy that's a pass-catching running back out of the backfield, and he'll say, oh, it kind of reminds me of Matt Bellini. Like, this guy lives BYU football, and you don't want to let that guy walk to Penn State. And look, they're passionate about their football too, and I'm telling you, he would do a nice job. I don't know if he would take down Michigan and Ohio State annually and get a national title. I don't know on that. That's tough to ask for anyone. But I think with a lot of resources that would be near the top of the sport, I wouldn't bet against that guy, because I'll tell you what, he's had players from all different walks of life throughout this BYU 10 years he's been there. Guys that you would have never thought before would be at BYU. And they've loved BYU because of Kalani Sitake. And that to me is valuable too, that you've got to keep this guy. And look, Jay Hill's brilliant. He's a fantastic X's and O's coach, and he's just a dang good football coach, period. Elite recruiter. Kalani's got a great staff. Like, there's a lot of potential head coaches on the staff. But don't just say, oh, Jay Hill could take it to a higher level. You're discrediting how good Kalani has been in building this and getting people to invest and buy in like never before into BYU football. But now it's got to go to an even higher level, because within your own league, you're competing against Texas Tech, who is not slowing down. Whatever happens this Saturday, the Red Raiders aren't slowing down. Go look at their recruiting for the years to come. They are going to be a beast. And Kalani is looking to take this to the heights where they can go win a national title. And what does it take to win a national title? Rosters that are probably $25, $30 million. That's just what it is. And I believe BYU's got the people in their athletic department that are committed to that. You know, Brian Santiago, when he got the athletic director position, he made it clear football is the top priority. And he raved about Kalani Sitake, and he's given endless praise about Kalani Sitake. I think President Shane Reese, massive supporter of this BYU football program. Same with Vice President Keith Forking. These people want this sports program to go to the highest level. Sometimes with BYU, you also have to remember how much are their hands tied on things. If they can just wave a magic wand and say, Kalani, contract extension, done, let's get it over with, I'm sure they're getting it done. Because they don't want to deal with, one, the headache, and lose a guy that lives and breathes BYU football and wins at a high level. Like, it's one thing to have a guy that's like one of your own and is a fan and is passionate. It's like, yeah, it's great, but he just doesn't win. Like, think about the things that Kalani's doing. He's taken over the rivalry. He's unseated Utah as the top program in the state. Winning his program in the Big 12 in the 16-team era. Got him in the Big 12 championship game. These are things that BYU fans felt were not possible just like 5-6 years ago. Like, no way, no how. Now it's happening. And then there's also that direct link to Lavelle Edwards. And that adds, and not that that's required for whatever head coach takes this role, because the years will go by and eventually the Lavelle circle of people will not be connected to the program. But that means something. BYU values its history. Kalani Sitake, I just think, is a fantastic head coach. I mean, I think he's the type of guy that could work in the NFL. I really do. I think Kalani is a brilliant head coach. And to me, it's like BYU has got to do whatever it takes to get this done. Because also, too, if you lose Kalani Sitake, who's to say you don't lose Jay Hill? If Penn State's willing to throw out a huge number to Kalani, why not do it for Jay Hill, too? And Jay Hill's got head coaching experience, excellent defensive coordinator, one of the best in the Big 12. That brand of football, I think, would work at Penn State. I really do. If people get over the whole geography thing, it would work. Again, Kalani Sitake is strategic. He's not just throwing his name to any job. And if this can be the leverage that gets BYU over the hump and gets them in a position resource-wise, facility-wise, infrastructure to be at the highest levels of the Big 12 and competing and having a chance to win in the college football playoff and competing for national titles, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing to do this? I know it's stressful for people. Like, people are stress sick. I think I've talked to BYU fans. They don't even want to go to Arlington now because they're just sick about this. BYU has got to get this resolved. Kalani, Penn State, BYU, it's got to be resolved. Because you got signing day coming up. The signing period opens. You got to get those players locked in. And no, these people are on board because you don't want to lose the Ryder Lions. Ryder doesn't have to sign. No one needs to sign, honestly, because some of the recruits in this top 25 recruiting class, they can wait until February. There's no requirement to sign. And many of these guys in this class are desired power conference long list of offer guys that would find a landing spot. And programs would open the doors to get those players into their recruiting class. So this needs to get done. This needs to be done. And Kalani Sitake is worth investing and then some for BYU. I just do. I just don't think you take that for granted anymore. He's shown that he is a great coach, an outstanding head coach, and he's the type of coach that has the potential. And I don't think he would ever say this because he has so much respect for his mentor, Lavelle Edwards. I think he's got the potential because of the strength of schedules that he's facing. He has the potential to be not one of the best head coach in BYU football history. Again, like, you know me, I'm not just saying that lightly. Lavelle reinvented the game, and his impact on the sport at large is unreal. But Kalani's connection in this era is so unique. And it's just, you don't want to lose that. You don't want to let that go out the door and then wonder what if, because you think someone is instantly better because of your views and feelings on that person. I just think you got a great thing in Kalani who loves this place. He's got a young daughter. He's got a son who's in high school. He's got one daughter that's going to college at BYU, one that's married. So it's like a little, kind of wide range of the family dynamic there. Kalani's a good dude. He's a good guy. And I'm sure it's not the easiest thing to talk about and discuss and go through this, but I remember in 2021 when he went through the whole Oregon and Washington thing and then got the extension before the Independence Bowl. He even talked to me in an interview in Shreveport. He's like, he indirectly kind of not apologized to fans, but just said, hey, like, I'm sorry we had to go through this, but it's for the long-term health of the program. Again, I don't think it's just like Kalani's looking to just get his bag and run. That's not what he's about. I mean, if that came out and that was his main objective, that would shock me. That would really shock me. He's about his people, his circle that he trusts, and the potential. This guy knows college football, man. He knows this sport. He lives this sport. He loves this sport. And he wants BYU to get to the highest levels. And they're knocking on the door of the highest levels right now. With, again, what I talked about is after the Cincinnati game, the post game. BYU's facilities pale in comparison to other places in the Big 12. It matters. These things like that matter. Laying out a roadmap for a football operations center. Student-athlete building's not enough. I know they kind of expanded it a little bit. It's not enough, though. Go look at what Cincinnati's got and then tell me that's BYU, what they've got's better. Look at Texas Tech and tell me BYU's is better. No. Like, I know it's like the arms race thing, but it's like, that's the game here. And BYU's got potential to do it. They got more money than people think. We've seen that. They've got tons of ability. And Kalani Sitake is worth investing in. He just is. Don't let the momentum of this program go out the door over some dollar amounts. Like, look, ticket prices have been raised. Tap into those corporate sponsors. Whatever you got to do to get this done. It's got to happen. I mean, BYU's ran in the black for many years. Well, hopefully it was for these rainy days like this to where, okay, time to tap into that rainy day fund. Let's go. It's time to unlock the funds and make it happen because Kalani's worth it. And Kevin Young's worth it too. You've got the best perfect head coaches in the main revenue-generating sports. Don't mess this up. Just don't. But I think also, too, that people act like AD Brian Santiago doesn't want to invest highly into this, too. Again, with BYU, there's a lot of tape to go through. And you wonder, how much are these people's hands tied? But still, how are they selling the vision enough? What we've seen from these individuals that are connected with BYU right now, President Shane Reese, Vice President Keith Vorkink, AD Brian Santiago. They're very invested in these sports, this athletic department. And even before with Tom Homo. I remember in an education week, he was talking about how they wanted to do everything possible to put BYU in the biggest stages possible. Biggest, best situation possible. Kalani Sitake now as a head coach is putting you in those best positions and biggest stages possible. Pay him as such. It's time. It's been 10 years now. He's in his 10th season as the head coach. He deserves to be paid. I think is the highest paid Big 12 head coach. And that's, what are we talking here? Probably $10 million? It's a lot of money. I think it's worth it, though, for a guy like Kalani Sitake. Look, it's not my money, so it's easy to say that. But again, what BYU football means to people, the amount of people attending games, the interest in BYU football has grown. And it's not slowing down with this momentum that's building because the recruiting classes that are coming in the future are only getting better. Kalani Sitake is worth investing in, and they can get this done, be a huge thing and a huge victory for this BYU athletic department and for this BYU football program as they gear up for the Big 12 football championship game against Texas Tech. I'll be there in Arlington, myself and Kyle Ireland. We will have a special Friday night preview show. Hopefully we're talking about a game with Kalani Sitake on those sidelines. Gosh, that would be awful to see Kalani gone before this game. But give me a crazy week. We'll have you covered throughout the week for BYU and Texas Tech here on Cougar Tracks. And it's powered by KSL Sports.